I'm extremely pleased to be joined today by two impressive local owners, small business owners, Connie Pawloski, owner of ComForCare, home care in Rockville, and Mark Rittenberg, principal of AMR Commercial LLC, commercial real estate brokerage in Bethesda. They will provide remarks about the impacts of COVID-19 on their small businesses, and then take questions from our Zoom audience. Please send your questions to the chat box on the right of your screen. Before we start, I'd like to once again thank Susan Kennedy, who has done a marvelous job for moderating all of our briefings. Susan, thank you, and can we please begin?
Thank you very much, Sydney. I'm enjoying our Fridays at 12:30. It's becoming quite a nice event to look forward to every week. We're going to start with our guests and have them give a brief description of their business and what they're doing here in Montgomery County during the COVID-19 crisis. And Mr. Rittenberg, we'll start with you. Tell us a little bit about your real estate company. I know you're one of the founding members and you've been around for quite some time.
Yeah, we've been around for 26 years now. We're a Bethesda-based commercial real estate brokerage, and we represent landlords and tenants, buyers and sellers in all aspects of the commercial real estate process.
And you are one of three founders of the business, is that correct?
Yes, I'm the R in AMR Commercial. I have two partners, Jack Alexander and Bill Montrose. All of us Montgomery County natives and lifelong residents.
Okay, we have questions for you after we hear from Ms. Pawloski. Tell us a little bit about ComForCare, Connie.
So about 14 years ago, I started ComForCare Home Care. What we do is we go into homes of senior citizens, whether it's in their own private home, assisted living, nursing home, even a hospital setting, and we help them stay safe wherever they are, whether it's dressing, grooming, taking them to doctor's appointments. And through that, I also migrated and started a second business, which is a residential group home for those who needed round-the-clock care, but couldn't afford hourly rates. And that's Lynn's House Assisted Living. That's been there for 12 years in the great city of Gaithersburg, where Sidney Katz used to be the mayor.
Very good, very good. So if I understand correctly, then ComForCare is basically for those seniors who would like to age in place, stay in their homes.
Yes, primarily, but we also work with any learning disabilities, anyone over the age of 18.
Okay, so talk a little bit about how this pandemic has affected your business. Have you still been able to go into the homes and provide care to your clients?
Yeah, well, we are classified as an essential business, and our employees are all essential. So we have been, we've been very blessed that we've been able to work. Now, it has affected us immensely with the schools closing, and that really affected childcare. So a lot of my caregivers were not able to have the childcare during the day so that they could get to work. And then also, because my clients are in the high risk category, some of them were just afraid their own children or other family members, because they were not working. They had them come into their homes to replace us so that they would have a family member stay with them 24/7. So, that has also affected, the number of clients that I'm servicing in the county, as well as, having caregivers to do it. But, we're still there, and we're doing the best that we can. We're trying to keep everyone safe. We have policies and procedures. The great thing is that I am part of a franchise system, and so our franchisor has been working around the clock to make sure that all of us, all 200 of our franchisees, have policies to handle COVID.
Now, do you go into the home every day for someone, or how does that work?
Oh yeah, I mean, we can go in as infrequently as 4 hours, 2 days a week, and we even have some clients that 12 hours overnight, and we have some that were there around the clock 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Wow.
That's amazing. Mark, you've been around, as we mentioned, as we started the show, for quite some time. You've probably seen a lot of ups and downs in your market. How does this compare?
Well, it's absolutely uncharted territory. Ups and downs. I would love ups and downs again.
Mm.
This has been catastrophic to business owners nationwide, but in Montgomery County, clients that we work with and partner with to help grow their businesses and using their real estate to help them make money. Now we're working with them for survival, working with them to work with landlords to try and find a way through this pandemic to come out on the other side where their businesses can still be viable.
Yeah, I can't even begin to imagine. And also looking at the future moving forward with so many people teleworking, will they actually come back to these office spaces? That's got to be going through your head.
Yeah, we have lots and lots of discussions about that. It's really unclear. Teleworking really began, IBM was a big pioneer of teleworking many years ago. And in the recent history, they had actually started bringing people back to the offices because they felt like there was better collaboration and better corporate culture in-house. And so we've always sort of thought of teleworking as just kind of a side thing. And now all of a sudden, the one thing we never considered is, would people be afraid to come into the office?
Mm.
And so it's just a whole new world. And now things like Zoom that we're on now have become ubiquitous in this time. And so we don't know what's going to happen with regards to how teleworking will affect people's ability to come in and use their offices or their stores.
Well, and of course, this has affected everything that we touch. I mean, of course, this country is going through horrible times. I keep saying, what could be worse than sickness and murder? I mean, that's what we're going through here. But obviously, the real estate market it affects even to the governmental side.
Yep.
The more vacancies you have, your appraisals are based on the vacancy rate or your leasing rate.
Right.
And the more vacancies you have, the lower the appraisals are going to be,
Right.
which therefore affect the tax rate, which therefore affect people. And
Right.
right now, for the budget that we just went through for the county, it was what we call a continuity of services, but we realized that our tax revenue was going to be down and is down dramatically, and the services are up dramatically. I mean,
Yeah.
I was on a Zoom call this last week where a principal of an elementary school in the Up County said that her school alone had served over 2 million meals, just her school. So when you stop and realize in Montgomery County, and we have some very wealthy areas and some areas that are very far from wealthy, but in Montgomery County, when you have that kind of need, it's just unbelievably dramatic. I mean, it's just, how do you deal with it,
Well, the good thing, Sydney, is that the landlords have really
Absolutely.
mostly taken the lead in working to keep these tenants alive. And so ultimately, if we can save these businesses and keep them in space and open, then, a year from now, we won't be looking at mass vacancies, which would, of course, translate into loss of tax revenue. So the landlords have been doing a good job.
They really have. And of course, you hear the bad examples, but we have so many more. I mean, dramatically so many more good examples.
Yeah.
And I know of businesses and have heard of businesses where the landlord said, look, we know that we want you to stay there. We understand you can't afford to pay us right now, but we're better off to have you in that space because there's not somebody who's going to be standing behind there to try to lease it anyhow.
Right.
And keep that person whole. And that's what the county is trying to do. We're doing a lot of grants so that we can help the businesses come back. I mean, this is nobody's fault. And it's just unbelievable how it's affecting people. And in the healthcare industry itself, I mean, I know that so many people have been in their families have been directly had people pass away because of COVID-19. I mean, it's a huge concern and something that we have to continue to work on. And in fact, the Montgomery County and Prince George's County were the worst in the state of Maryland. I mean, that's what we're facing.
Yeah. Connie, I have a question for you. You know, you have folks that are going into homes and you talk about safety and making sure that your workers are protected. What kind of PPE do you provide for your workers, and do you test them on a regular basis to see, just to make sure they're safe before they do go into these homes?
Yeah, that is a huge concern of our clients as well as for our caregivers. So again, we have a screening mechanism where every morning an email goes out to all our caregivers at 7 a.m. and it asks them specific questions. But one of the important things is, you know, are you running a temperature? So I've provided thermometers for all my caregivers as well as for my clients, so that they can also feel comfortable taking the temperature of any caregiver that walks into their home. Initially, we did have difficulty getting surgical masks. You know, we've had lay people making fabric masks for us in the beginning. Luckily, I did have a lot of hand sanitizer. In fact, was able to donate some to the DC police officers because I had so many on hand and I knew they had a shortage, as well as gloves. These were all very difficult for us to get initially, but again, working with other home care agencies and the county was, you know, doing their best to provide them to my assisted living, which I was able to benefit from. Luckily, and personally, I bought face shields. Again, just so that, because some clients that I work with do have dementia. And when you walk in with a face mask, number one, they don't recognize you. And number two, they're wondering, are you sick? So we want them to be able to see our faces, our smiles, our eyes. So the face shield has been very helpful.
Now, Connie, I read on your website, and obviously both businesses have wonderful websites, but I read on your website that you got it started because of your grandparents. I mean, that's how would you like to elaborate on that a little bit?
Sure, Sydney. As I'm Chinese, I grew up in the same home with my paternal grandparents, and neither of them could drive a car. So when I was 16, they bought me a car so that I could take them grocery shopping and doctor's appointments and wherever they needed to go. And as they got older, I spent a lot of time with them. And so I started off, I went to college, became an accountant. But when the opportunity came up to see, you know, how can I give back, it seemed like a natural transition to work with seniors, because I feel like they groomed me at a very early age to do this kind of work.
And Mark, and now you might not have started in this industry because of your grandparents. What is your story, please?
You know, I was at the University of Maryland, and by the time my junior year rolled around, I realized I wasn't going to go to law school. And so I decided I was going to give real estate a try. I got my real estate license and got an internship with a small real estate company here in downtown Bethesda as a junior at Maryland. And it just sort of blossomed into a full-time job by the time I graduated. And that's where I met my two partners that eventually started AMR Commercial.
I like that. That's a good story. That's a good story. Talk a little bit about your opinion. I know there's been a lot of, and this is for Mark, there's been a lot of talk about how this downturn is going to last, if it's going to be a quick rebound, and I'm assuming it would affect your agency and your group the same way as everybody else, or do we see this being more going into the end of next year, if not longer? What are you seeing with the numbers and what's happening?
Well, it's sort of anecdotal information based on different areas. But as far as Montgomery County goes, from what we've experienced so far, it's been somewhat positive. That as retailers have offered expanded services, people are taking them up on it. Gyms, people are starting to go back cautiously, but they're going back. Restaurants, people are going back. You know, in downtown Bethesda, the streetery, the outdoor dining areas have drawn lots of people. And I think people really want to get back to it. And fortunately, the economy in this area has always been pretty strong because of Uncle Sam. You know, the federal government keeps a lot of money flowing into this area. And so I think as we come out of this, we're positioned to better bounce back than a lot of other areas in this country.
That's good to hear. Have you had tenants that haven't been able to pay their rent, and how does that work?
We have had many, many tenants who cannot pay their rent. And it started, you know, right when the shutdown happened in March, and the landlords and the tenants had to get together and decide, okay, what's the plan? And the plan for many was, all right, we're going to defer rent for 3 months, 4 months, 2 months, whatever they decided, and we'll worry about how that deferred rent gets paid back later. But for now, keep your employees intact, use your PPE to keep your staff intact, because these businesses can't come back if they don't have staff. So if you get rid of your staff, even when things open up, you can't come back. Hiring, training, it's very difficult. So the goal was keep your staff, keep your business intact. And as we emerge from this, we hope that you're in a position to start paying rent come, a lot of people are thinking July. So now July's here. I think some businesses are going to start to be able to pay rent. Others will still be in a tough spot. The businesses that were not thriving before the pandemic are the ones that we're going to see go by the wayside, that as they come out of this, they're just not going to have the wherewithal and the strength to survive. But the ones that were okay beforehand, the landlords are going to want to keep, they're going to want to work with, and I think they'll be okay in the end.
How about for the property owner themselves, though? If you're not getting your rent, how are you paying your mortgage? How does that work?
Many property owners, thank goodness, the lenders also are participating in this, because you know, it's just so all-consuming. Many lenders have said to the owners, we're going to defer payments, either interest, you know, we'll go to interest-only payments, or we're just going to completely defer payments, and we're going to just tack it on to the end of your loan. Some landlords, you know, a lot of small landlords have struggled because things like taxes and utility bills, those come no matter what. And so it's been sort of a dance with the landlords and the tenants to try and collect that money and get it sent to the proper authorities so that the lights stay on and you know, the taxes are paid. But the mortgages, which are really the big monies that are due, fortunately, the lenders have been working with the property owners.
That's good news, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's really, that's helped a lot.
Yeah.
Connie, talk a little bit about, you know, what you see in the future. Will there be a demand for your services for folks who are recovering from COVID? For some people, you know, the recovery from COVID isn't as simple as getting over the flu. There are long-term repercussions that come along with this virus that might take some folks a little bit longer to get better. So could we see a demand in services for you?
Most definitely. I think, you know, regardless of whether there's a COVID or not, this industry is growing. I mean, we're getting older. Right now, our clients are the parents of baby boomers. And one of the things that we were worried about is, are people going to want us to go into their homes? Because, you know, initially we saw a pretty big drop in our clients. And I think the trend is that for our industry, the home care industry, that we're seeing a little bit more. We're seeing people, because they can't right now get into the nursing homes. You can't take a tour, and then you have to be quarantined. Even if you test negative, you still have to be quarantined if you do move in to a nursing home or assisted living, self-quarantine for 14 days. And many people don't want to do that. So they're accepting home care into their homes. They're being discharged from hospitals straight back to home. So we are seeing that. I think this is actually, I don't want to say increased business, but it's, I think there is a trend that is going to move forward for us.
You know, go ahead, I'm sorry, go ahead.
The only problem that we're running into is finding the caregivers. Again, you know, with childcare being an issue, our school is going to be back open in the fall, and we used to be able to run an ad, and we would get 100 people applying for, one or two cases, one or two jobs. Now, with everything that's going on, unemployment at such a high rate, you think it'd be easier for us. But we're getting like maybe 5 applicants versus the 100. So there is a shortage also in qualified people to do the work.
To your point, my in-laws are 95 and 93, living in Towson next to Goucher College. And my mother-in-law is in the nursing home part of the building where they live. My father-in-law is still in the apartment. I mean, and it's one of these places you buy but you don't own. You give a significant sum to get in, and they can't be together. My father-in-law is not allowed to see his wife, 72-year marriage, and they can't be together, and they work together and everything else. I mean, so it really is a very, very tough situation. If they were, and they are in a good situation because this building is a very nice building, but if they weren't and they could have had a system like you're talking about, at least they would be able to see each other. They'd be able to meet with each other. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a tough time for our seniors. It really is. It's very tough. Mark, what about your office? It looks like you're in the office right now, but are your employees teleworking, and what are your requirements as far as folks who work for your company?
Most people are teleworking. Fortunately, our business and many businesses that revolve around sales, the people are out meeting with clients anyway, so we're sort of used to working on the road. My two partners and I, we have been coming into the office because we want everyone to know we're here, we're open, we're working. But basically, most of the staff is working remotely at this point.
One of the things I was talking to my husband about as far as when we get back to work and we get back to the office, and people say, well, will we get back to the office or will we continue to telework? But my sense is, and what I do, I miss the sense of collaboration and the creative ideas that come out of being in an office together, which I'm sure with you just being there with your partners, I'm sure that's great. But is that sense of collaboration, missing? And do you think your folks will be ready to get back to the office when it's time?
I do. I think that they miss it. We have Zoom meetings, staff meetings, where we discuss the different things that we discuss with our guys. But being able to walk out of my office and go down one door and bounce an idea off of somebody or follow up on something that we're working on, boy, that is underrated. I mean, it's a big deal to be able to do that. And I have a new appreciation for having the people that I work with here, collaborating, brainstorming. It's just, you just can't put a price on that.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if we had the same situation and didn't have Zoom? I mean, how much productivity would have just gone? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I can tell you, I always tell people that I knew of Zoom, but I never lived Zoom until the last 3 or 4 months. I mean, you just go from Zoom meeting to Zoom meeting. I mean, it's unbelievable.
And some of the people in my office have complained that the Zoom meetings tire them out.
Yeah.
That it's like grueling going from Zoom meeting to Zoom meeting, that there's much more energy when you're having in-person meetings. And so I think that's been one drawback also, to not having the people physically in the office.
Did either of you apply for any of the grants that were made available through the county? I know we had the public health emergency grants for small businesses and also the teleworking grants. Did either of you take advantage of those programs?
Connie?
Yes, thank you very much for offering these grants. We did apply for the PHEG. By the time it went live online, it was a very thorough process. It took us, and we had our financial statements and everything ready to go. I mean, luckily I have a great team in my office. And even though we had everything ready that was required of us, it still took us a few hours to fill out everything before we hit submit. And so that by the time that evening, I was number 2,619. But I was very fortunate that I was a recipient. I had all my ducks in a row, and we did receive a $10,000 grant. So thank you very much.
That's good. And I mean, talk to the importance, and Mark as well, of the support of your local government during a time like this. It's one thing to receive the paycheck protection and the eviction protection and all those things from the state. But why is it so important, that we have Montgomery County behind us during this?
It was really meaningful to many, many of our clients to be able to have a lifeline to help with, they needed so much help that, the PPE was great, the state of Maryland participated, but it just wasn't enough. And so to know that they had another source, somebody else that had their back, I think it meant a lot to a lot of our clients.
Yeah, it's, and I'm sure that the county's work isn't done. Is that not correct, Sidney?
That is far from done. I do, and hopefully it will not happen again, but if we do have a surge, which many areas in the United States and other places in the world are seeing surges, if we do, at least we have some things that we don't have to do again. For instance, we already have a stockpile of PPE, which we didn't have before. You couldn't even buy it. Even if you had the money in your hand, you couldn't buy it. The respirators, we have respirators. So we've upped our hospital beds. We've done a lot of things. Hopefully it will not happen. Hopefully it'll be just fine. If we do, at least we can move much faster than we did last time. It's just, and that's part of the problem with this. Until we get a vaccine, and until we know that the vaccine is going to work, until the vaccine can actually get to the people, nobody has a time frame on this. So that's another problem.
Yeah.
But we're all working together. It's the strangest of times for everyone, but everybody understands that we just need to work together. That's how we're going to try to solve this situation.
Well, we only have a couple of minutes left, so I'm going to let each of our guests say a few closing remarks before I turn it back to you, Mr. President. Mark, just tell us what the future holds for commercial real estate here in Montgomery County. Looking ahead, what do you think?
Well, I think that the future is pretty good. I think that, again, the economy here has always been strong. We've had down times before. We always bounce back. People want to be here. It's a great place to live. It's a great place to work. And so I'm sure that it's bright. I don't know how far out the bright future is. Again, a lot of it depends, like Sidney was saying, on how quickly we can get a vaccine and get everybody comfortable. But I'm certain that there are good days ahead.
Very good. Connie, how about you? Business looking like it's going to be okay if you get those people in place that you need?
I do. Like I said, people are still going to continue to need care. And I think the number that's going to choose to stay in their home is going to increase. Susan, I do want to give one more plug to the county. I do want to say that the county has been so supportive for all the facilities that are out here. They provided masks as well as gloves, and now they're doing testing. They're helping us to make sure that our residents get tested as well as our staff. And the community has been amazing. CCACC, again, just everyone seems to be working together to make sure that our seniors are being well taken care of. So it's we really are all in this together.
Yes,
so thank you to everyone.
It takes a village, doesn't it? Well, I'm going to turn it back to Sidney to close, but before I do, I did want to tell our viewers that we are taking a week off for the July 4th holiday, so we will be back on July 10th with our next business briefing. And Mr. President, will you take us out?
I will do that. And first off, thank you both There, and Susan as well, obviously, but thank you both for being with us today. It is a fast half an hour. I mean, it's a fun chat, and we do appreciate that. And I also want to personally thank you both from your business side as well as your personal side, for being so supportive of the community. I know that many of you, both of you, are always out in the community and helping us cause. And to Susan's words and Connie's words, it does take a village to raise each other. It truly takes a village to raise a county. So we sincerely appreciate everything that you do, and we will not see you next Friday, but we'll see you the Friday after that. Thank you, and be safe and be well, and have a happy holiday.
Thank you.
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thanks for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Bye.
Take
Thank
care.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.